Hello everyone, you are listening to Scenecraft. From opening shots to long takes and epilogues, we examine our favorite scenes from cinema here on the podcast. I'm Cody, here with my fellow jitterbugs,
Mark,
and Connor.
You can find Scenecraft on most social media platforms at Scenecraft Podcast for the latest news on the show. In honor of the late David Lynch and his recent passing, we'll be discussing 2001's Mulholland Drive. And at the end of the episode, we'll be joined by actor Bonnie Aarons to discuss her unforgettable performance as the bum in the Man Behind Winkie scene in the film. And as a quick reminder for our listeners, this year we will be hosting our first ever Scenecraft Oscar ballot. You'll be able to enter your guesses in our custom Google form for a chance to win a $100 cinema gift card, so keep an eye on our social channels for that link. But as usual, let's begin with our brief What We've Been Watching segment, Quick Takes.
Speak quickly.
Quickly, thank you.
Quickly, come on. Hurry up, quicker.
Way quicker.
Okay, I'll say it fast.
So it's been a while since we've last done Quick Takes. What have you guys been watching recently?
All right, I went out to the theaters to see Companion, which was directed by Drew Hancock, was released this year, 2025, and the logline reads, "An unexpected happening sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to a lakeside estate." So I think for us at least, probably for a lot of listeners out there, we know that January tends to be sort of a stagnant month for movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I went out to go see Companion because I was hoping to see if it would break the mold. And I actually wanted to put in the work and have this be one of the quick takes, which is kind of a new mindset of mine. I'm like, oh, this would be a good quick take. And so I grabbed my wife. We went out to the theater to see this. And I think it does break the mold of having those kind of industry movie dumps where they just put in movies they don't really care about. Companion definitely shines. So this movie, going to be a great quick take, right? Nope. Kind of backfired. Because I will say this film is best experienced knowing as little about the plot as possible.
Okay.
So that means avoid the trailer, avoid the poster. And if I'm being honest, I even modified the log line to omit a plot detail. And so this is all to say it's not going to make the best quick take. But what I can say is that this film is sort of a horror thriller, maybe more on the thriller side than the horror side. And it has a few satisfying turns that caught me by surprise. Sophie Thatcher, who I first saw in Heretic last year, is fantastic in this. And she really does have a bright future ahead of her. Overall, I had a great time with this one. I would encourage everyone to go out and support this movie because it's a fun, original IP-driven movie that should be recognized. I would recommend Companion, which is now playing in theaters.
So what you're saying is basically blind buy. Just trust
Just go in knowing as little as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to be... It's not like high art or anything like that, but I think it's a really fun ride. There are some pretty interesting points made about like gender politics and technology. There's so much I want to say, and there's so many movie comparisons I would like to make, but all that would just be spoiling some of the fun that the movie has to offer.
Yeah, Cody and I will have to see it. I think I'm pretty interested after your quick take, actually. So it was a good quick take in my book.
Yeah, it can't be long before it comes out to, is it still in theaters right now?
Last time I checked.
Okay.
So it came out January 31st, and these windows are getting shorter and shorter, so I wouldn't be surprised if it got bumped out because of the new Marvel release or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, Sophie Thatcher's awesome. First introduced to her through Yellow Jackets. She's really great in that show.
Oh, that's right.
Loved her in Heretic, too.
Yeah, she's tremendous.
Amazing. What else, Mark?
I also watched The Straight Story, which was directed by David Lynch in 1999. I chose this because of the theme of the episode, and I just decided to go back and explore a movie that I hadn't seen from him before. The logline reads, Alvin Straight, a 73-year-old learns that his estranged brother, Lyle, is critically ill. Unable to drive, Alvin embarks on a journey from Iowa to Mount Zion by riding his lawnmower. Will he succeed? Kind of a great logline.
Yeah.
I love ones that kind of end in a question like that. Sort of unusual. But this film has a reputation for being one of his most accessible movies, and I am completely in agreement with that. As the title suggests, this movie is rather straightforward, and it actually demonstrates a lot of restraint from his typical Lynchian standards. There aren't any strange performances or surrealistic dreamscapes to be found here. This movie is not only rated G, but it's technically a Disney film.
Oh, I'm so fascinated by that.
Yeah.
I really want to watch this.
Oh. So instead, this movie gives a really touching look at small town living as a stubborn elderly man is forced to confront his own mortality. And after reading that log line and deciding whether or not to watch this film, the big question I had was, how is a movie like this going to take that plot and stretch it out for nearly a 2-hour movie? But what I will say is there's a lot of really heartfelt reflections on life that the main character has with other people he meets along the way that really resonated with me. I have worked in some smaller towns in the Midwest, and all these characters felt very true to life to me. And so really fascinated by that. I would recommend A Straight Story to anyone. So those who are fans of David Lynch and those who maybe weren't big fans of his other movies, I think it could appease both. So that is The Straight Story, and it is now streaming on Disney+. I would recommend it.
I always love the poster for this too. Just like the profile silhouette of him on the lawnmower. It just says The Straight Story.
Yeah. It's great.
Cool.
What about you, Connor? What have you been watching?
So I recently saw the movie Mudbound, directed by Dee Rees. Came out in 2017, and the logline reads, 2 men return home from World War II to work on a farm in rural Mississippi where they struggle to deal with racism and adjusting to life after war. So 2 nights ago, I went out to see a screening of Mudbound as part of the Chicago International Film Festival's Black History Month screenings, and the screenwriter, Virgil Williams, was there for a Q&A after the show.
Nice.
So that was really cool. It was great to hear about his experience. Obviously, we always love anytime we can hear insight from someone so integral in making the thing. It was my first time seeing Mudbound, and I was really struck by how forthright it is in showing race relations in the 1940s rural American South. Like the logline says, we see 2 families, one white and one black, struggling to make a go of it as farmers in the same bleak, muddy, unforgiving landscape of Mississippi, like the title suggests. The key difference is how these families are treated by society and how horribly racist a big part of America was towards Black people at that time. The film doesn't shy away from showing that reality. In fact, I think its strength is how matter-of-factly it shows both the humanity and inhumanity that existed at that time. And my first thought was like, damn, this is less than 100 years ago. This is the 1940s. And it's one of those movies that just really captures the human condition of many characters and puts you in someone else's shoes. I would definitely recommend checking out Mudbound if you haven't seen it. It's streaming on Netflix. And Mark, Carey Mulligan is in it, so that might be a selling point for you.
Okay. I'll definitely have to check it out.
You've seen this, right, Cody?
No, I haven't. I
swear you logged this on Letterboxd.
No.
Yeah.
I did not.
I'm pretty sure he did.
You did?
No way.
Yeah.
What?
I'm positive.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Cody's seen this. Like, he'll have a lot to say about it.
Let me get some evidence here.
Hang on. No, let me delete it.
Do you have like no memory of it?
No. Oh, that scares me.
November 21st, 2018. I got the date.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just
and
thought
I
you
rated it too. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, no, the rating is one thing, but I think it's the review that's more damning.
You reviewed it.
Oh, did I actually?
It was early Letterboxd days too. Mudbound is actually one of the first Netflix movies that they tried to make like a dramatic picture for Oscar submission.
Okay.
So it's like early streaming service actually making a theater release drama.
Interesting.
Yeah.
While occasionally trying to take on too much, the parallels drawn by thoughtful direction and cinematography make this a solid period drama.
It's like a great review.
Apparently, I watched
Sounds
it.
like Cody.
Okay, I have no idea. I don't know what to say. That's
okay.
It's a little terrifying. God. Okay. Might have to watch it again.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's
Okay.
really good. It's a solid movie, and again, like a time period that is a good reminder of what our country has been through. Something that we absolutely like do not ever want to go back to.
Yeah.
The other one I watched recently is The Skeleton Key, directed by Ian Softly from 2005. The logline for this one is a hospice nurse working at a spooky New Orleans plantation home finds herself entangled in a mystery involving the house's dark past.
Ooh.
So I've got a bit of a theme this month with movies that deal with racism in the American South. But this was another one that I watched recently, and my wife actually introduced me to it. So like your quick take for Companion, Mark, I don't want to give too much away. I think the poster and marketing for this one really did it a disservice, so don't let that throw you off. It's a good popcorn thriller from the mid-2000s that's much more mystery, like the logline says, than horror.
Okay.
There are eerie elements to it for sure, but it's much more in the vein of like a twisty Jordan Peele style ride than a jump scare kill fest horror movie that came out a lot at that time, something like The Ring or The Grudge or House of Wax. It's not that.
Okay.
So if you're interested in a more old school classic mystery, I would definitely recommend checking out The Skeleton Key. It's available to rent on Amazon and Apple TV right now. I think it's a hidden gem, and I want more people to know about it. So you can tell me if I'm off my rocker if you watch it.
Who's in the movie? Any like notable stars?
Kate Hudson is the main star.
Okay.
She's good in it, really good. Let me know if either of you guys decide to watch.
Okay.
But how about you, Cody? What have you seen lately?
So I recently watched A Different Man, directed by Aaron Schimberg.
Cool.
It came out at the very end of last year, 2024. It's now available to stream on Max, so you can catch it there. The logline reads, aspiring actor Edward undergoes a radical medical procedure to drastically transform his appearance, but his new dream face quickly turns into a nightmare as he loses out on a role that he was born to play and becomes obsessed with reclaiming what was lost. So since this came out at the very end of last year, it is on a bunch of critics, 2024 in review lists, but it is completely missing from all of our lists from our past 2 episodes on the podcast. You guys have not seen this yet, right?
No, but it's been on my watch list for a while.
Yeah, me too. I think it's just a matter of finding the time, and my effort went to other movies that were maybe a bit higher profile.
Yeah, exactly. I think you guys will actually really like this.
Oh,
so
cool.
I would definitely recommend it to both of you. But
Okay.
A Different Man is a bold and deeply layered social satire about a lot of things. Ableism, self-image. It's a commentary on the sometimes hypocritical and parasitic nature of artists, all within this kind of like vaguely sci-fi shell. It's not quite on the sci-fi level of something like Problemista, but it's, a little more subtle than that, but it is maybe set in the near-ish future, where characters behave in a sort of bizarre and stilted manner, almost like a Yorgos Lanthimos approach, but not that stylized.
It's catnip for Mark.
Sebastian Stan plays Edward, who is a struggling actor with neurofibromatosis, who undergoes an experimental procedure to alter his appearance drastically. And that transformation propels him into this complex and disturbingly funny journey after the realization that someone else could actually be a better version of his original self than he ever could be. So if the substance is the head's side of a coin, A Different Man is the tail's side.
Oh, interesting.
Similar, but very different. And I'd be curious, Connor, like if this works better for you than the substance did in its messaging.
It's like a reverse substance almost.
It is kind of like a reverse substance. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Wow.
But the tonal pendulum of the film swings back and forth pretty drastically. Overall, it does stand out as a daring and insightful film that challenges conventional narratives, and it really encourages introspection on how we perceive ourselves and others. There are some disturbing sequences, I will say, but overall, I would recommend A Different Man, particularly leading up to the Oscars, where it's nominated for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. So I'm curious to see how it does there.
Yeah, I'll definitely check this out.
Yeah. And then next up, I went way back and I watched Matilda, directed by Danny DeVito in 1996.
Yes.
Nice.
The logline reads, "A girl gifted with a keen intellect and mysterious powers uses both to get even with her callous family and free her kindly schoolteacher from the tyrannical grip of a sadistic headmistress."
Miss Trunchbull.
Miss Trunchbull.
So great.
Yeah. So the other night, I think I was like pigging out on dinner or something, and my wife Monica started chanting, "Brucey, Brucey."
Oh, wow.
And naturally, she was shocked to learn that not only did I not recognize that famous line of dialogue, but had never even watched Matilda growing up, and nor did I read the Roald Dahl children's book.
Wow.
It's shocking to me, too.
And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I was telling you guys, like, this is kind of the American Harry Potter, but this was before Harry Potter.
Yeah, right before.
Right.
And obviously, the original novel, not American, but the movie did seem to be like, wow, this is so similar to elements of Harry Potter. So that was very interesting. But of course, I was somewhat familiar with the concept of Matilda, played by Mara Wilson in the film, and Miss Trunchbull, played by Pam Ferris. And I think I had probably seen a clip or two from the film, including the notorious Trunchbull hammer throw of like the little pigtail girl.
Yeah.
But that was it. I didn't really know much else beside that.
Wow.
So we had to change that. And I am so glad I finally watched Matilda. It's a rare example of a children's film that really respects its core audience's intelligence while delivering a visually dynamic, darkly whimsical, and seemingly faithful adaptation of the classic novel. Every frame is meticulously crafted. It's drenched in vibrant colors that amplify the film's storybook quality, with distinct lens choices that heighten both the fantastical and the grotesque, like those really wide-angle, almost fisheye lens choices. The cinematography is surprisingly thoughtful there, and using exaggerated angles and dramatic close-ups to reinforce Matilda's perspective as a child in a world dominated by overbearing, absurd adults. It's super playful and yet deliberate in its visual language, and it keeps the film feeling both timeless and distinct. It's kind of a perfect encapsulation of Dahl's signature mix of charm and menace. And I've read plenty of other Dahl works, like I loved, BFG and The Witches. And yeah, I finally see why it's so beloved by so many. That is 1996's Matilda. Glad I finally got to experience it.
Yeah, so happy that you finally watched this. I'm sure there were no less than like 10 moments in the movie where you're like, oh, that's where that comes from.
Oh, yeah. So many aha moments, like out loud, like, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah,
chocolate
it was great.
Cake. I
The
mean, how
chocolate
could you
cake,
listen to Rusted Roots on my way? I
Ever
just can't
the
imagine
same, yeah.
listening to that song and not having it somehow connected to this movie. They're like inseparable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And shout out to, obviously, Monica for introducing me to the film finally, which has been happening more and more recently. I'll just say like, oh, I haven't seen that as we scroll by, and we'll just watch it.
Nice.
And if listener Jen is listening, I know you're a big fan of Matilda and of the cake scene in particular. So thanks for your inspiration as well.
Amazing scene.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for your quick takes. And now moving on, in memory of David Lynch's recent passing, let's talk about Mulholland Drive, starring Naomi Watts, Laura Herring, Justin Theroux, and Bonnie Aarons, among many others.
I just wanted to come here.
To Winkie's?
I had a dream about this place. There's a man in back of this place. I can see his face. I hope that I never see that face ever outside of a dream.
The logline for the film reads, "After a car wreck on Mulholland Drive renders a woman amnesiac, she and a Hollywood hopeful search for clues and answers across Los Angeles in a twisting venture beyond dreams and reality." Quick reminder to the listeners that at the end of this episode, we are so thrilled to have actor Bonnie Aarons joining us for her pro take on the film. So tune in for that as we discuss her iconic performance as the bum in the Man Behind Winkie scene for the film. We're so excited to talk to her.
Yeah.
But let's first start with our spoiler-free section. Mark, what did you think upon rewatch of Mulholland Drive?
So I'm going to start off my general take by taking us back to high school.
Okay.
Long before the era of streaming, where nearly every single film ever created is available with the click of a button, to a time where our exposure to movies was mostly relegated to the numerous copies of the latest Hollywood hit on the shelves of Blockbuster or the stock of DVDs available to purchase at a local Best Buy. The budding cinephile in me was finally set free when Cody rented Eraserhead via Netflix's DVD mail-in service. And I will say, despite how dramatic it sounds, after seeing my first Lynch film, there was really no going back. This was the first instance for me to realize that a director doesn't necessarily have to play by the rules of cinema and can, in fact, create their own set of rules to play by. And I know this isn't going to be a controversial take, but I think Mulholland Drive is a masterpiece. It's a movie so cryptic that David Lynch himself notoriously compiled a list of 10 clues that were included in the DVD in a little kind of like cutout on the inside sleeve. And it was all in an effort to help decipher the narrative for viewers. While there's probably a lot of people out there now who are saying to themselves, how could you not understand this movie? Isn't it pretty obvious? I will remind them that this movie came and was released in a time where there weren't communities of movie obsessives online compiling their best theories together. It took multiple rewatches, clue gathering, and recontextualizing previous scenes to get to the core of this movie. And what I think is so great about Lynch is that he taps into these universal themes we've seen countless times in other films. Unrequited love, the pursuit of a dream, but he presents them in such an unfamiliar way. For example, how is he able to express heartbreak in a way that feels extra tragic? And to me, it's by seeing this distorted, idyllic dream version of Naomi Watts' character in this film, and you get an inside glimpse into what she wants, and then you harshly juxtapose that with her sad reality. It just hits so much harder when you see how different things are from the way that she wants them to be. But I only think you can be rewarded with the weight of this discovery after you have a firmer grasp at what this movie is trying to communicate. Connor, what did you think of your rewatch?
I think we're all going to say a version of the same thing, that we like really loved this movie and it made a huge impact on us. But I was thinking about it, similar thing to you. Some movies you watch, you think about for days and weeks afterward. Some movies you watch and forget as soon as the credits roll. Some movies change your life, and Mulholland Drive is one of those movies for me, for sure. I first saw Mulholland Drive with you guys as part of our movie club back in high school. Do you remember what our club was called?
No, I weirdly don't.
So it's called Special Presentation.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
And I think it was like mostly senior year. Every weekend when we would meet up, we would take turns picking a movie, and you'd have to give a little prepared speech about why you picked it.
God. Yeah, that's right.
I can't really remember why we picked this movie, but I'm pretty impressed with us looking back on it that we watched it at this time. So this movie made a huge impression on me when we all first saw it together. And I was actually really scared to rewatch it for a long, long time because we grew up in life and more importantly, in our movie watching career. And we sharpened our critical eye. And with that, I think comes a better sense of analyzing and unpacking themes in art and movies. Basically, I was really nervous that Mulholland Drive, this formative movie that really changed the way I thought about movies, wouldn't be as good as I remembered it being. And I wanted to preserve what it meant to me at that moment in my life by not rewatching it, But anyway, I finally did rewatch it last year, about exactly a year ago, and I was so happy and relieved that it was just as magical as I remember it being. And that made it even better in some ways. I'm a visual person, as a designer, you guys know me. And I've always had a hard time putting into words what I'm thinking and feeling. Words, for me, they're like too limited of a tool set to accurately convey everything that I'm feeling. It's easier for me to show it. There's that old saying that, a picture's worth 1,000 words. We can pack a lot of ideas into a visual, and different people can see different things looking at the same image. And that's why I love movies. Add in audio, the performances, the things that were shown in sequence. It all adds up to an experience worth millions of words. And with Mulholland Drive, it just made sense to me when I saw it. I liked how it made me feel. It wasn't explained to me like so many other narrative-driven movies and media that I had seen in my life up to that point.
Yeah.
So trying to figure it out or explain it is not the point of the film. I think the answers are there, obviously, if you really want to find them. His work on Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet, etc., deals with loss of innocence, the woman in trouble, and his work shares a lot of common themes, which we'll all do our best to dig into in this episode.
Yeah.
But to me, David Lynch showed me it was okay to seek answers and not find them. It's okay if a work of art leaves you with more questions than answers. And Mulholland Drive really opened my eyes to how a narrative story could be told. What it means to you and how it made you feel, that's what matters, and that's what's important. I was always frustrated by Lynch's unwillingness to explain his work, but now I have really come to appreciate, actually, his point of view that movies should be felt rather than understood. And to me, Mulholland Drive really represents that philosophy at its best and its most successful. I think it's a really important work of art, and I imagined it opened similar doors for a lot of other creative people out there.
Yeah.
What about you, Cody? How was your rewatch?
It was great, and an infamous quote from 2020's Tenet comes to mind, directed by Christopher Nolan. Quote, "Don't try to understand it, feel it."
Yeah.
Unquote. I know that quote's kind of mocked online a little bit, but, Mulholland Drive is sort of the anti-Tenet in a lot of ways.
Yes.
It actually holds the conviction of that quote, and just as you talked about, Connor, it bathes us in true mood and feeling without taking a step into this lazy kind of half logic. It's unapologetically a vibe movie. It fully commits, which in this case is probably one of the best examples of a sort of limbo between a dream and a nightmare. It lures you in with its seductive Hollywood glamour, only to unravel a surreal descent where reality fractures and identities blur. Every moment of the film feels charged with an eerie mystery, as if something sinister is lurking just outside the frame. While Lynch's haunting sound design and uncanny direction of performances and dialogue create a sort of hypnotic sense of dread. I have great memories, too, of the first time watching this with you guys in high school. There is some imagery in the film that still scares me to this day. It's not just a neo-noir or a mystery. This is a meditation on Hollywood itself, the illusions it sells, and the identities it discards. Lynch definitely deconstructs narrative cinema in the film and throughout many of his films, using surrealism, not just as a gimmick, but a way to sort of tap into the subconscious, making the film feel really personal, weirdly, yet universally very haunting. That is what makes Mulholland Drive a defining work of the 21st century that is revered by, so many filmmakers, creatives, moviegoers. David Lynch, he spent his career expanding the language of cinema. As you were sort of saying, Mark, proving that a film is just not about lateral storytelling, but about experience. I think we've all kind of covered that.
Yeah.
But he crafted worlds that feel like waking nightmares, unsettling yet emotional, surreal yet undeniably human. He blends the mundane with the terrifying and exposes the hidden darkness of American life specifically through, something like Twin Peaks with small town eeriness, or the industrial horror in Eraserhead, or in this film, Hollywood illusions. His work refuses easy categorization, making him not just a film director, but a visionary whose influence continues to shape modern filmmaking. Rest in peace, Mr. Lynch. You were truly one of a kind, and we're so grateful for all the films that you put forward, and happy to discuss this film here today all together. So let's dive in further and move into our scene selection, which we're going to call The Man Behind Winkies. And as usual, beware of spoilers ahead.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what do you see?
Spoilers! Right ahead!
Thank you.
Connor, would you give us the scene beats, please?
Sure. I'll try to sum this one up as well as I can, because there's a lot of feeling that might not be able to be described, but I'll go for it.
Yeah.
This scene starts approximately 12 minutes and 40 seconds into the movie, and it's pretty quick. It runs for about 5 minutes. So the film hard cuts to Winkie's Diner, a retro-style restaurant on a sunny day. Two men in business suits who we haven't seen before up to this point. Dan, played by Patrick Fischler, and Herb, played by Michael Cook, sit at a booth near the window. Dan tells Herb about a recurring nightmare he's been having where they're in this exact spot, and there's a man behind the diner who is responsible for this fear that Dan has been feeling. Dan describes how terrifying the man's face is and says he never wants to see him in real life. Herb reassures him that it's just a dream, but Dan insists that Herb walk with him behind the diner to check if the man is there. As Herb gets up to pay for their meal, he stands in the exact spot that Dan described earlier, and it becomes clear that reality is starting to mirror Dan's dream. The two leave the diner and walk outside into the bright daylight. They slowly make their way towards the back area of the diner that Dan described in his dream, and Dan becomes increasingly nervous. As they reach the back, the homeless-looking man suddenly emerges from behind a wall, and we see a close-up of the man's grotesque, shadowy face. This moment is accentuated by a loud, distorted sound cue, followed by pure silence. Overcome with terror, Dan collapses instantly, seemingly from a heart attack. The camera lingers on the bum's face before the scene abruptly cuts away.
Very nice.
Ooh. Gives me chills just like hearing somebody verbally recount that scene.
A lot of imagery there, yeah.
And, we don't usually go well out of our way to dedicate a section of our scene analysis to providing our, overall interpretation of the film. But in this case, if we didn't evidence this enough for the past 10 minutes, it makes sense to just lay a groundwork for, I think, our overall consensus of what the narrative means, because the scene and its themes can be considered representative of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Connor, what do you make of, I guess, the themes and the meaning of the film as a whole?
So let's just start by saying Lynch is probably the most notoriously cagey director when it comes to saying like literally anything about his work at all. So again, this is just our interpretation of the story and trying to parse out some meaning. We've done our best here. Cody, you let me borrow, in quotes, the book Lynch on Lynch by Chris Rodley, because I was so fascinated with Lynch after seeing this movie. And I just kept it forever. I still have it.
It's yours. It's yours now.
The book is, for anyone unfamiliar, book is a series of interviews with Lynch. It's a great read if you're interested in learning more about this movie, his other work, or just learning more about him in general. It came out right after this movie came out. So this is like the last one talked about in the book. I just reread the section on Mulholland Drive right before we recorded, and he talks about the movie a lot, but in his signature abstract way that doesn't really reveal anything about the meaning.
Right,
but
right.
There's a great quote in there about this movie, which I think sums this whole thought up. Probably, possibly, and maybe. These three words inevitably arise again in any attempt to describe the delicious puzzle that is Mulholland Drive. That's 3 words more than Lynch himself is inclined to offer when it comes to explaining the movie. To get an idea of this reluctance, one need look no further than his synopsis. Part 1, she found herself inside the perfect mystery. Part 2, a sad illusion. Part 3, love. In other words, don't ask. It's so
I
great.
respect him so much. I mean, he stood by his convictions. He never explained anything. To this day, we still don't really have a definitive idea of what he intended the movie to be. But I have read online that he said there is enough in the film to create a, I don't know, like a traditional narrative, I guess. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at it. You guys chime in when you see fit here. And if you guys completely disagree, let me know, please. So my interpretation is largely influenced by a lot of other analyses that I had watched and read online. Special shout out to London City Girl on YouTube for their analysis video. I think it's like 20 minutes long. And it does give a lot of good insight. So Diane Selwyn, who is portrayed by Naomi Watts, is a struggling actress who has fallen deeply in love with the successful Camilla Rhodes, who is played by Laura Herring. When Camilla moves on and she enters a relationship and ultimately becomes engaged to director Adam Kesher, played by Justin Theroux, Diane is consumed by jealousy and bitterness. In a desperate act, she hires a hitman who successfully kills Camilla. This reality is only revealed in the last 25 minutes of the film. Instead, the majority of Mulholland Drive's narrative unfolds within Diane's subconscious, a dreamlike world in which she reimagines herself as Betty, an innocent and talented, aspiring actress with a bright future. In this dream, Camilla takes on the identity of Rita, an amnesiac who is vulnerable and dependent on Betty. The setup allows Diane to rewrite history, creating an idealized version of herself and her relationship with Camilla, one where she is talented, loved, and in control. However, the dream world is not entirely stable. There are cracks in this fantasy that emerge through surreal and unsettling moments, such as the eerie presence of the cowboy, the cryptic performance at Club Silencio, and the monstrous figure behind Winkie's. These moments hint at Diane's subconscious guilt and the inescapable reality of what she has done. The dream ultimately collapses, forcing Diane to confront her remorse, leading to her tragic suicide.
Yeah, that's a great take, Mark. And thanks for all of that work to interpret this. So there's a lot of red thread up on the map here, connecting all these different ideas. If I were to try and sum it up, it's a movie with two parts told out of order. I think it's a story of a woman who's become an antagonist in her own life because she's killed the person that she loves. And when she's forced to confront the reality of what she's done, she has a dream where she's actually the protagonist, living out the best version of what her life could be, and she actually saves the person that she loves.
Yeah.
In the end, kind of like rewriting her own story in a Hollywood way.
Totally agree. And what did you guys make of the Man Behind Winkie scene in particular during your rewatch? Why this scene? What stood out to you?
Two things struck me when I rewatched this, which was just how early the scene takes place in the movie. For some reason, I kind of had a feeling that it was like halfway through or something, but he really doesn't give you like any anchoring point of like who these characters are, why we're here in the first place. So that really struck me.
The scene happens so early.
Yeah.
It sets this tone for a very weird movie, and it lets us know as the audience that we're definitely in for something different than what we've been served up for the first 12 minutes or so of the film.
Exactly.
So why do you think it represents the themes of the movie? Do you have any interpretations?
So one, Dan, I think he may serve as a reflection of Diane, Naomi Watts herself, with the figure behind Winkie's representing the horrifying truth she's desperate to avoid, which is that she orchestrated Camilla's murder. And just as Dan collapses upon confronting his worst fear, the man behind Winkie's, Diane ultimately takes her own life when she is forced to face the reality of what she has done.
Yeah.
So that would be like probably like my main interpretation of this scene. But I think alternatively, since this is all Diane's or Naomi Watts's dream, according to us. The man behind Winkies may also represent failure. This movie is definitely about the Hollywood dream and the idea that any given moment, an ever-present force lurking just out of sight is ready to strike. And unlike the cheerful diners inside, the bum is isolated, dirty, and discarded. And it embodies Diane's deep-seated fears of rejection and insignificance.
Yeah. No, I think those are both two really great takes and interpretations that are probably both true in some way.
Yeah.
Again, like, I think that's what is so great about this movie and this scene. Those are great representations, like in a literal sense, of what a character is thinking or feeling in the scene. I love the scene so much and this movie because it's so cryptic and surreal. There's so much to read into. One thing I noticed, on top of that, on a more macro level, I think this scene in particular might be my favorite example of Lynchian horror. Like, it's, obviously,
Yes,
he's become a verb or like a noun because he has such a signature style. But
right.
It's themes of fear, fate, and the hidden darkness beneath everyday life. Lynch loved to show the darkness lurking underneath the surface, and here the homeless figure behind the diner could symbolize the suppressed ugly truth lurking beneath the illusion of normalcy, a lot like how the film later unravels Hollywood's glossy facade to reveal something sinister underneath, like this weird secret network of people making things happen.
Yeah.
Right.
This bum, the person, is somebody that society doesn't really want to see or have to confront. They're presumably like surviving off the trash and leftover food from the diner. They're living behind the dumpster in a parking lot, out of sight and hidden away. We know that they're there, but we'd rather just try not to think about them.
Yeah.
And I think the scene also foreshadows the film's larger structure, like you really nicely explained earlier, Mark, where dreams and reality intertwine until they basically become indistinguishable. It really reflects Lynch's ability to turn abstract fears into tangible nightmares.
Right.
Something else that struck me the first time I watched this and has stayed with me is I'd never seen a self-fulfilling prophecy play out in a movie like this, and it's so unsettling.
Yes,
like telling
yes.
us what we're gonna see and then showing it.
Well, and how quickly it happens, because we're familiar with foreshadowing. It's the standard in a lot of great movies, but for it to be so immediate, he describes his dream and then we see it play out. Lynch constructs a scene that is so sure of its ability to unsettle us that he openly and methodically reveals exactly how he plans to do so.
Yeah.
And this exercise in dread and anticipation, to me, it's almost akin to a parent trying to calm a child down by showing them that there's no monsters in the closet.
Yeah, and the scary thing is, like, there is a monster. And it like pops out.
Exactly. They're real. One other thing, just to get into the symbolism of this scene, to me, I think a key to, quote, unlocking, unquote, this scene is the setting of the diner itself.
Yeah.
Which is the same diner that Diane meets the hitman towards the end of the film, and where she orders the hit on Camilla. Right. And in the real scene with the hitman, Diane appears distraught and tormented, similar to Dan in the scene.
Yeah.
And the result of her actions of having Camilla killed terrorized her, similar to the appearance of the man behind Winkies in Dan's dream.
Yeah.
And so once she receives the blue key in real life, which serves as the calling card for the hitman once he's completed his hit, Diane comes face to face with her guilt, similar to Dan coming face to face with the man behind Winkies.
Yeah, it's a great analysis there. And it's a perfectly crafted horror sequence. Not because of excessive gore or supernatural elements like in other horror properties and films, but because it taps into that deep-seated existential dread. It plays with anticipation, dream logic, subconscious fear. It immerses the audience in this unsettling feeling that something is fundamentally wrong, yet it's inevitable. Lynch doesn't just scare us with like a jump.
Yeah.
He burrows this into our psyche for the rest of the film, leaving that feeling of unease, and it lingers, and it becomes an important thematic element throughout.
One quick background piece too, which people might not know, but I thought was pretty fascinating. Lynch talks about what it took to make this film. It was actually supposed to be a pilot for a TV series originally. So this was, he had done Twin Peaks before, had a lot of success with TV, and then moved back into feature films through the 90s. ABC came to him, wanted him to pitch something. He had this title, Mulholland Drive. Like, that's all he had. He just thought it sounded cool and mysterious and liked it. For many years, didn't know what to do with it. And somebody suggested, why don't you turn that into a TV series that you could make for ABC? So originally, most of this movie was shot as part of a pilot. So it was going to be a longer pilot. Ultimately, ABC decided to pass on it. And they then turned the pilot into the feature film that we know as Mulholland Drive. So about 2 years later, Studio Canal got involved, French production company. They shot about 50 minutes more of footage. And Lynch had this idea. I think he had a vision while he was meditating about how to like piece together this unfinished work and turn it into something that could work as a feature. So I just found that really interesting to know the story about how this got made. And
Right. I think that's the amazing part, is that knowing all that, he pulled it off.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a masterpiece.
Works amazingly. Yeah.
And he had the odds stacked against him on that. Going specifically into Winkies, which I almost want to say is like borderline copyright infringement in the way that it looks like the Denny's logo.
It's Denny's.
Yeah, it is. It is Denny's, right? The filming of this scene actually took place in Caesar's restaurant in California, and the establishment was apparently shut down in 2017 and has been abandoned since. I've seen a couple people on Reddit like visit it, and I don't know if the doors are just unlocked, but they're like taking pictures of where they shot it, which is really eerie in and of itself.
So once again, it's Denny's.
Yeah, it's Denny's. Like, Lynch has said it's supposed to be Denny's. Like, he would eat breakfast at this Denny's at Gower and Sunset, and it used to be a place called the Copper Penny, like way back. But he would like eat Grand Slam breakfast there, and I think he just like had this idea about having the scene take place there because of a story that had happened at that Denny's. It just felt like it was like a regular place in his life that he thought would be more interesting if it had a darker spin on it.
Sure.
Yeah. And to that point, it being kind of this regular, bright, sunny scene in broad daylight, that makes it all the scarier. And the character, Dan, even mentions that like in the dream, it's kind of this weird twilight lighting.
Oh, yeah. In between night and day.
Yeah. But in reality, because it's in this broad daylight with like this kind of glowy halation that the film embodies all throughout, it makes what actually happens out at the dumpster even scarier, because it does seem just like a normal, bright blue sunny day.
Right.
And it really plays with our expectations in that way.
Yeah, you get this like false sense of security from it.
Yeah, totally.
So let's briefly talk about the performances in the scene. We really only have 3 actors in the whole scene. There's Patrick Fischler as Dan, Michael Cook as Herb, and we have Bonnie Aarons as the bum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely save the discussion about the bum character for our pro take with Bonnie at the end of the episode. She will have, the best detail about that.
Right.
But she is definitely terror incarnate. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
She really makes the scene really memorable.
Yeah, and she just makes it look effortless, But I want to take a second and talk about Michael Cook's performance. I think he does a really great job playing off of Patrick. There's this shift in his vibe when he's standing at the counter. I just feel like it's so amazing because he suddenly feels Patrick's deep dread, and the look on his face just totally changes, and he knows that Patrick's dream could be real.
And then Patrick Fischler, he's having to do the most heavy lifting in the scene by far. You can totally feel that like sweat and stress that he's experiencing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. One cool thing I'd like to add is that Patrick Fischler, he recently gave an interview about his experience in this scene and how David Lynch's directorial style just comforted him. because in his own words, he felt like he kind of sucked during this scene. And I think Lynch just told him, it's okay. Like you're just recounting a dream. It's nothing more than that.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. I've always been fascinated by the way Lynch directs people, especially at certain parts of this movie. He makes them act so weird and wooden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, now that we've analyzed the larger themes of the movie, that kind of unnatural acting lets you know that this is a dream because people aren't acting normal. But
yeah, and those wooden performances feel even more unsettling against the uncanny valley visuals we're getting throughout the film. Like the glossy look of the American dream in Hollywood, even though we constantly have this deeply unsettled feeling throughout. It's kind of that interesting mismatch visually.
Right.
Yeah. And on the topic of just the visual side of things, I read that they had to use a special jib arm and like work it into the narrow diner and get it so that Peter Deming, cinematographer, could like use this thing and have the camera just float. Like the floating never really stops. And Lynch said that was always part of the idea, part of that nightmare is to have it just constantly floating and moving. And you're not settled because it's constantly moving.
Right.
And Mary Sweeney's edit, it's truly a masterclass in slow burn tension. She very intentionally stretches time, delaying cuts where like we as the audience are used to a very typical cadence of an edit in a dialogue scene. And what she's doing here is placing the cuts in very bizarre and lingering ways that make us feel like we're going down a set of stairs, we missed a step and we're about to stumble. And there's a lack of like a traditional horror cutting. There's no frantic quick cuts or abrupt jumps. It just increases the suspense by forcing the audience to sit in this dread. And then we get to, the moment where the figure behind the dumpster appears and that appearance is jarring, but it's not abrupt. Like you guys were saying, it's not an aggressive leap out. It happens precisely at the moment of maximum dread for Dan when his fear peaks. And instead of using a traditional jump scare, Lynch holds on the horrifying figure for just like a beat longer than you would expect. And that really makes it burn into the memory. And then, of course, you get the cut back to Dan collapsing, which is almost just as terrifying. Like
it is so. That's the scarier part to me. Is like
totally
that moment.
Yeah, it totally emphasizes that his mind and body have shut down when he's confronted with this nightmare. Not only like a visceral physical reaction, but thematic, knowing that it's representative of Diane and her dream kind of collapsing.
Right.
So it's not just a scary scene. It physically affects Dan. By extension, it physically affects the audience.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it is so effective because of this edit. And it's really cut as if we're inside Dan's mind, moving at the pace of his fear, first very slowly, then becoming a little more stilted and awkward, playing out in real time. And it culminates in this reveal that is just like unbearable to watch, even if you've seen it like 10 times.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Right.
So one of the last things we haven't really touched on yet is a lot of visual things happening, but there's also an audio component to this that is really impactful, making the scene work really hard. And the first thing that we could touch on is just the sound design.
Right.
There's no background chatter in the diner scene. So you're really just getting the audio of these two actors, and right away it feels like something's weird about this scene because there's no chatter.
Well, it feels kind of dreamlike.
Yeah.
Because you see people talking, but you don't hear any of it.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, and obviously music done by Angelo Badalamenti, amazing composer who's probably best known for his frequent collaborations with Lynch, Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, A Straight Story. He's actually in the movie as Luigi Castigliani, one of the mobsters who spits out his espresso on a napkin, which is like one of Mark and I's favorites.
That's amazing.
But yeah, outside of like the music, no chatter, I think the other thing is the absence of sound once Patrick faints. So after we see the bum, the fact that it just goes completely silent made this scene so impactful for me. Like it really hit home this fear and this trauma that happens that Patrick is experiencing.
Yeah. Alongside the edit, the sound edit and sound design and mix are absolutely crucial here.
Mm-hmm.
When the bum appears, there is this how would you guys describe it? It's kind of this sudden, deafening sonic burst, and it's like a weird mix of a scream or a groan, and it totally obliterates that quiet soundscape that we've been talking about. I guess the jump scare of it is more
the sound
than the actual visual, which is this kind of slide out.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it feels like a horror scene, but I think like you were saying, Cody, in your analysis of the editing, it doesn't follow traditional horror rules. It still works, and you get that feeling of a horror has happened, but it does it in this avant-garde, strange way, and I think that's what makes it so jarring. It's something that we haven't seen before.
Totally.
I completely agree.
Before.
I have seen a lot of horror movies over the years, some with extreme levels of gore, but I have yet to find many movies that truly shake me to my core in the way that some of the Lynch movies do.
Yeah.
I think it's because his movies operate on an entirely different wavelength than others. Because his films are just less concerned with presenting a streamlined, accessible narrative. I think it's the haunting imagery that's just able to affect me on a more visceral, primal level.
Yeah.
I remember watching Eraserhead with Cody in my basement, and I was sick to my stomach by the end of it.
Yeah. I believe it.
I literally vomited. We've talked about this, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to get too graphic here, but we had a nice family dinner with your parents.
Yeah, it was a big Italian dinner type
Maggiano's restaurant. Came home, we're let's check out Eraserhead.
Stomach full of pasta.
Right.
Really bad combination.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, man.
And here's the thing, though. Sure, there's some instances of really upsetting imagery in his films, but I think there's this added level of unease because it can be hard to make any sense of the things you're seeing. And I think that allows for them to resonate on a deeper emotional level and trigger our own personal fears and anxieties.
Yeah.
Well said. I think that's a great way to put it. Very fun to talk about this scene as a whole. I think it is evident of how much this scene has stuck with us over the years and embedded itself in who we are as people, and just changed the way that we look at movies in general because of this scene, because of this movie, because of this director. Really inspiring.
Rest in peace. And it's been fun to re-explore, re-examine this scene with you guys, which has been such a critical part of our film journey together.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that we've broken down the Man Behind Winkie scene, let's welcome on our guest, actor Bonnie Aarons, for her pro take on Mulholland Drive.
Amateur or professional?
Professional.
Hi, Bonnie. Thank you so much for joining us on Scenecraft to talk about Mulholland Drive today.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here, and thanks for having me.
So this being the pro take section of the podcast, we always like to dig a little bit into the background of our guest. And because you have such a fantastic career in the industry, we're curious how you were first contacted about Mulholland Drive, and I guess what led to that moment.
Well, I met David years before Mulholland Drive. Then after that, I got a call saying he, wanted me for a role. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. I didn't saw the casting. Yeah, well, he met you and, you have the greatest space he thinks he's ever seen. I'm like, what,
Wow.
Yeah, I was wowed too. And so, so of course, did it. It was magical from the get-go because it's weird. I woke up, I'll never forget this. I woke up that morning, I was walking my dog in the little park up the street, and a bird shit on my head. I said to myself, something really good's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's supposed to be good luck.
And then that happened.
That's incredible.
That is amazing.
We're so curious. Can you talk us through your experience on being on set and what kind of went into creating your character's iconic look, the makeup, the wardrobe, everything?
I arrived on set very early. in the day, very early in the morning. And I remember walking through the makeup room, and I mean, if you could say meeting Naomi Watts is saying hello.
Yeah.
And she was getting her mail, walked through the makeup room, and they were going to go bring me to the people doing my makeup. And there she was. And I went like this, hi. And then she looks up and she goes, who's that? And I go, she's playing the bum. And then I remember her saying, leave it to David to pick a woman to play the bum. Hi, like, you know. And it started off by putting moss on my face with a tweezer, piece by piece. Mind you, this makeup was all day long. Like, it took 12 hours or more because everything was hand done. I do a little tweezer, beep, 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 all around. And then they put, you know, dirt and other thing. Then came, you know, after hours of that and more of that, you know, then David would look at it and be like, more or this and that. And then it went into the hair, and he wanted the hair bigger and dirtier. And there was steel wool in my hair and mud in my hair. And then he goes, no, silver than oatmeal in my hair. Now, to this day, I still believe I have some of that stuff in my hair. And it was, and then there was, you know, the costume. I mean, every little thing. No, make it dirtier, make it dirt. Take the jacket off. Let's everybody stomp on the jacket. Throw dirt on it. Yeah, so it was really intense. And he was very involved in everything.
Wow. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. I think it's no secret that he has a very unique, surreal way of creating his movies, like, to say the least. Could you describe a little more, like, your experience working with him? What was it like collaborating on a character that's as mysterious and unsettling as this? Did he give you any kind of specific direction on that character?
Yeah, he did. He handed me, well, first this one scene, you know, where I'm just looking, whatever. There was all these different looks he wanted and all these different things. And I'm just going through it. And he sits down with me and he says, oh, no, you know, just something else, do something else. And I was doing something else. He goes, that's just not it. You know, and I was like, I got to do it for you. I got to do it. He goes, relax. You're going to be one of my greatest. You're going to do it. I know you're going to do it. I'm like, wow, you faith in me. And then I looked at her, I went, I was thinking, because when you're in his presence, anyone who's ever been in his presence, even if he walked in a room, he lit up the room.
Wow.
I mean, you knew you were with a higher being. And so I just looked at him. I love you. You're so great. You're so beautiful. You're so gorgeous. And he goes, that's the look. That's the look. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's the look. If looks could kill. And then I said, I love you. He goes, I love you too. And he says, yeah, that's the look. I'm like, well, the look of love is the look, you know.
That's incredible. So with that, the bum character doesn't speak, but their presence is incredibly memorable. How did you approach creating that character who just communicates so much through that look and body language? Like, did you guys do rehearsals going into it, or was it just kind of finding it on the day?
It was finding it on the day. And I even said to him, well, I wish I had a line or something, whatever. He goes, believe me, you're saying a whole lot.
Yeah.
Just sitting there. You're saying a whole lot. And it was fascinating. Then came the fire, which I didn't really know about. I was like, there are fire trucks here. You know, and then, you know, the costume's so, you know, the hair is so like this, I couldn't tell what was going on at that point. But he sat down with me and he gave me the box and the bag. And I'm like, well, what is going on? And what's this? He goes, well, just remember, you own this. And I was so into it. And I'm like, just staring at it. You own this. And I'm like, really? He's like, yes, this is yours. And I said, can I take it home with me? And he says to me, no. And he goes, so what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and you're going to go, you know, these counts, and then you're just going to drop it in the bag and then just put the bag down and stare.
Wow.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's amazing. I just love hearing these stories behind the direction he's given his actors. I recently read an interview from Patrick Fischler on the same scene, and he had mentioned some similar types of notes from David. And so it's so great to hear that.
I think I read maybe in an interview, I don't think Patrick Fischler had seen you up until that point.
That's right.
Oh, really?
He didn't.
Wow.
And then at one point, David came and had me shock him on the scene.
I have to ask, how did you react when you first saw your performance on screen and how it ultimately fit in the larger narrative of the story?
Well, when I first saw it, I mean, I had pictures and I knew what I looked like.
Sure.
So I wasn't, it just looks so magnificent on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
So shocking to look at, so large.
Yeah.
And I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'm sure that was an amazing moment.
And I didn't quite get it, how it fit into everything all at once, the whole thing. And that's a movie that you can watch. If you watch it 100 times, it tells you something different every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we were just talking about. And like our philosophy is like movies should really be felt, versus understood.
Right.
But of course, there's a lot of meaning in this movie. There are clues there if you choose to unpack them. And we know, just reading about David and his work, how notoriously tight-lipped he was when it came to interpretations of his movies.
Yeah.
We were wondering, did he give you any kind of insight into the meaning of the character? Or do you have any idea of what your character represents in the larger world of Mulholland Drive?
Well, the movie, it was supposed to be a TV series, so I
Yep.
knew it was something else. And from, my understanding, the bum character seemed to have some control, something that was changing, your insights and your, what you believe is real and not real. We're going to wake up from a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it would have led to, if it would have been picked up as a series, but I knew it was going to be something in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, so much for joining us and talking about your role in the film as the bum and just making the film that much better and honestly terrifying. And
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the most amazing things of my life.
Mm.
And I'm very fortunate to have been chosen by him and so lucky. It's amazing. Like I said, if you were ever in this man's presence, he glowed. Stunning.
Rest in peace to a legend. Thank you so much for everything that you did for movies, for cinema, for the people in your life that believed in what you did.
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, David Lynch, for a life of legendary filmmaking. And thank you, Bonnie, for being here with us to discuss your role and celebrate Mulholland Drive.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again to Bonnie Aarons for her pro take on Mulholland Drive. And thank you to our listeners and fellow movie enthusiasts for reliving this scene with us. Do you have a favorite scene from Mulholland Drive? You can email us at contact@scenecraftpodcast.com or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at Scenecraft Podcast for any scheduling updates and news. You can support this podcast by leaving us a review or star rating on your platform of choice. And a very special thanks, as always, to Jordan Summerlad for our theme music. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this year we will be hosting our first ever Oscar ballot for our listeners. It is free to enter, and you'll have a chance to win a $100 cinema gift card. We'll be making a couple of reminder posts on social media with a link to join and submit your picks. We would love to see you guys participate, so good luck and see you all next time.